Hey, everybody. Welcome to World Outside the Ring. This is Gabe, aka The Other Guy. And this is going to be the beginning of my World Outside the Ring personal segment. And so you've seen, if you watch the Beantown Beatdown, you've seen my World Outside the Ring that I do with Matt. And so, that's part of our main show. And now this is our personal segment. So today is 4th of July weekend / week. And so we got a lot to talk about. Let's get to it. So first and foremost, those of you that are, following the news at all, you might have heard something else about Boston recently. And, in my opinion, this is actually kind of a stain on our city. And I wish, that we didn't have to deal with this, but we do. So you may have heard that there is the Straight Pride Parade coming in August. Our city does not discriminate. We've been, we've had very well attended gay pride parades, and now, there's these few guys. I'm going to assume they're all guys, actually, and I'll get to that in a second, that, wanted to organize the Straight Pride Parade. So there's, I know a lot of you, might not be up on this, might be wondering what the problem with that is. It's not necessarily a problem. It's just, it's just something that, we have to kind of set the record straight on, as it were. The thing about, some people have asked, well, there's Gay Pride Parade, there's, Gay Pride Month every year, or LGBT Pride Month, so why isn't there Straight Pride? One of my favorite memes on Facebook in the beginning of the month was, the reason there's no Straight Pride is the same reason that there's no soup kitchens for the rich. And it's because means that it's because, it's because really when it comes down to it, you don't need it. I know a lot of you out there are straight. A lot of you are fight fans, obviously. But this is why we kind of just have to have this talk, guys. As you, if you don't know from watching, the Beantown Beatdown and other shows with Matt and I, yes, I'm gay, and the thing. And just as I said, the thing about straight pride is that, not to offend you, but, it would be the same thing as having a soup kitchen for the rich. You don't actually need it. And the reason is that you've already been protected. You've already been celebrated. You've already, people already, people already assume, that all of us are straight, and that's the other thing. There's been more and more acceptance lately, so that's good. And then, some people do fit the role more than others. So, yes, maybe some guys are more flamboyant, maybe some women are more butch, and then, therefore they fit the perceived role of being gay. But, but then, the rest of us, a lot of people don't know that I'm gay when they first meet me, and that's fine, but, that's why I try and be open. I try and tell you, and educate you when I feel like, something you said was a little out of line, a little inappropriate. And so, yes, when you're, you might feel like a lot of things are changing in society, and that's true. But that doesn't mean you're actually under attack. Have you been threatened? Have you been, for being straight, I should say? Have you been called, disparaging names? Try not to. The word faggot. that's still deeply insulting. That's, we have kind of tried to reclaim it, and I say, fag to each other sometimes jokingly, and especially you guys, that guys rip on each other, it's part of what we do. It's part of, being friends. It doesn't mean I always agree with it, but, or a lot of you might not always agree with it, but, that's just kind of what we do. And so, but yeah, try and be mindful, especially when using words like faggot that have been, that have been a slur against gay people historically. And the word, I will say quickly, actually comes from the days of, brush fires and, having to start fires, with wood bundles, in the desert, and or in dry, cold places. And so yeah, faggot actually means bundle of wood. And and the reason for that is because during the witch trials, it wasn't just women believed to be witches. It was also gay men, and perhaps women accused of being gay as well, but that's a whole other thing. So anyway, they would burn witches at the stake, and then and sometimes it was believed that they would actually throw men accused of being homosexual into the fire first, and so the men would be the wood, the faggots, the wood thrown into the fire to burn first, and so that the witches would burn in all of the sin of those people's bodies. So yeah, if you think about it that way, then yes, it is completely offensive to say faggot, because not just what it means nowadays, which is as important, but also just what it meant then. It meant that guys like me were ones to be just disposed of and burned, just for who we love. So that's completely offensive. And were you? So you never had to. If you're straight, you've never had to deal with that, I'm guessing. And maybe you were called faggot back in the day, but that was only because you were assumed to be gay or assumed to be feminine. Which in those instances you have a glimpse of what that discrimination is like, but it doesn't mean you actually know what that discrimination is like. You don't know what it's like to have to wonder if I can wear the right thing or the wrong thing, out in public every day. You don't know what it's like to have to wonder if I can hold my partner's hand, out in public every day. And so anyway, that's a long way of saying, that yeah, when we get down to it, if we get down to the nitty gritty, you don't need a straight pride parade. So anyway, the city is putting on a straight pride parade because they figured they also can't discriminate, in that way. They can't actually shut it down. But I hope it's very poorly attended. I was going to say that, I think most of these are men that are doing this just because a lot of straight women and women in general, don't go for that type of stuff. They wouldn't go for something that, that is, let's face it, kind of an insult to the gay community. So anyway, am I going to go and protest them? No, I'm not going to. I've thought about it. I'm sure, some of my friends in the gay community will. But I'm sure, from what I hear, it's a small group, maybe about 20 of these people, and yes, it is insulting to me that they're going to take the same route that the Gay Pride Parade just went through, the other week. But yeah, I'm not going to. Decided I'm not going to counter protest just because I don't want to give them that attention that they're looking for. This should be this. We're getting national attention, but this should just be a blip on the radar screen. And if we let it go and let them do what they're going to do, then they're just 20. They're just 20 odd guys. There's 20 odd guys marching. And that's it. Whereas we had hundreds, thousands, in major cities, hundreds of thousands of people marching for gay rights, during these last few weekends. So that's that. I do think it's insulting. I think we shouldn't do it, but I'm not going to go and get in their faces. Hopefully it will just blow over and be a measly, paisley showing, and be forgotten very soon. All right. Now, the next thing is going on. I'm going to do my Queer Pride / Independence Day segment here. So this is something I was going to do with Matt in studio when we, back in the day, but we never got to do it. So, interestingly, that Queer Pride happens in June and all the way through June, and then 4th of July right after that, Independence Day. So part of Independence Day is about the freedom that made America, let's just say it made America great. So part of that we are going to have to grapple with nowadays is freedom for everybody. We continue to expand freedoms. That's what we should be doing in this country, continuing to expand freedoms. And you guys as fight fans that that know about the history of the UFC being banned in New York and then other places, and you guys had to go all the way down to Louisiana, Alabama. You had to go to these places that didn't have these big sports before, because you were relegated to that, because it was a freedom that was infringed upon by the federal government, by John McCain and others, as Matt has pointed out before. So just think about that. Think about the freedom that you didn't have as fight fans, and now you do. UFC legalized in New York. UFC legalized I'm pretty sure across the country now. So that's the same thing we're arguing for. That's the same thing we're fighting for. And we've made a lot of progress, but it doesn't mean that we're completely there yet. Especially when every step of the way, there are people in government that try and take away these rights from us. So we expand freedom in this country. That's what made America great, and that's what will continue to make America great. And so it is fitting that the 4th of July is actually right there after the end of Pride Month. And, agree with it or not, I'm going to say that same independence, that ideal of independence from the British is what we celebrate on the 4th of July. That same independence is what we are going to have for all LGBT people, across this country and eventually across the world. So let freedom ring, as they say. We'll enjoy the fireworks, and let's remember, bringing freedom to all, not to some. And yeah, that's what it's about. So it doesn't diminish your freedom. It's the other thing. Again, have you been have your life threatened? For holding your partner's hand in public? Have have your life threatened, especially for kissing someone in public? No, you haven't when you're straight, and that's what that's all we're asking for, is the same dignity. Not to mention, a lot of people with the marriage debate were asking, well, why can't you just have your commitment ceremony and call it something else besides marriage? That seems like a pragmatic point, but really it's not, because there's a bunch of benefits that come with marriage, and everyone knows what a marriage is. So just think about that when you hope to get married, there's all these benefits, all these tax write-offs, all these things that come with that, and everyone knows what that is. So to say I'm in domestic partners with someone, or to say I had a commitment ceremony instead of a wedding ceremony, all that, people, you have to explain to people what that is, and then you don't get the same rights. You just don't. There's no contract that says you get besides marriage that says you get tax benefits with your partner. There's no contract that says that you can't be compelled to testify against your partner unless you're married. So anyway, that's a long way of saying we want the same freedoms, and it is not too much to ask. And they've been fighting for this for decades. This has actually been, you might think this is a new phenomenon. It is not. We've been fighting for this for decades. Harvey Milk in the 1970s, Stonewall in the early in the late 1960s. It is actually now also the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots. For those that don't know, that was a hotel in Greenwich Village that was raided by police, a hotel/bar that was a safe haven for gay people in New York, in Greenwich Village, and it was raided by police, and unjustly, and that's when the gay community fought back, and so it was a huge step forward for our rights. And so that's what we continue to do all these years, and that's what we will continue to do, because this is not settled. Those of you that think this, this is settled now. Matthew Shepard was beaten dead and tied to a post on a fence, only 15 to 20 years ago, and so and we honor his name a lot of times now, and then people, I read in my news feed about people that are still, usually gay men, are still beaten, brutalized nowadays. It still happens. This is not a utopian society. Also, have you ever been punched in the back of the head for being perceived to be gay? Because I actually, in San Francisco, which is supposed to be a safe haven city, it's considered the biggest safe haven city for gay people in the country. After New Year's Eve, I was making my way home. Apparently I looked at this guy too long, as I was passing him, he literally punched me in the back of the head and said, "Do not look at me, faggot." And I turned around and I was like, "What the hell?" Thank God his friends were there to hold him back. Otherwise, I had lost my boyfriend at the time. I didn't know where he was. We were both trying to make our way home, and I was with a friend of a friend, so who knows if that friend of a friend could have protected me well enough, and I would have fought back. But who knows if his friends had joined him instead of held him back, it would have been 3 against 1. And, I could have been in the hospital just like these guys that I read about today. So have you been punched in the back of the head? Have you had your life threatened? Have you been kicked on the streets is the other thing. Teen homelessness, the vast majority of them are LGBT. Have you been kicked out on the streets by your parents and disowned, for being straight? I don't think so. So, we have to continue these freedoms into the future. That's what it's about. And that's why I say that that Pride Month and 4th of July and Independence Day should come together, and we celebrate continuing freedom. Let freedom ring. All right, enjoy it, and Matt and I will be back with you soon. Have a good day, and enjoy your Independence Day.